This is episode 51 with Lou Redmond.
Welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, the show that empowers you to become the hero of your life's journey. With your host, Brian Tier.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast. Episode 51 today, and I'm super excited to be speaking to a good friend of mine, Lou Redmond. Now, if you haven't heard of Lou, he's a speaker, author, and meditation teacher who's quickly become one of my new best friends online. At 6 years old, Lou felt deeply that he was meant to live the life of his dreams, but as he grew up, like with so many of us, those dreams were put aside and societal norms took over as he found himself working to fit in with the crowd and take the common corporate road to the American dream. Unfulfilled by work, Lou turned to drugs and alcohol, and after 2 years of living life for the weekend mentality, Lou found himself in a meeting with a group of successful entrepreneurs that would change his life forever. From that point on, Lou began changing things one positive decision at a time. He got into personal development, started reading books, meditating, exploring his passions, and seeking new situations that pushed his comfort zone. Lou decided to write a book about his whole experience, which we get into the interview, and I just know that you're going to dig this one. In this episode, you're going to learn how Lou reached his personal turning point, why we go through our 20s on autopilot, the keystone habit that transformed Lou's life, the benefits of meditation and how to get started, the difference between bettering ourselves and being good enough already, and Lou's opinion on follow your passion. As always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at briantier.com/051. But for now, let's go hang out with Lou. Welcome back, everyone, and a big welcome to today's guest. I'm super excited to be speaking to Lou Redmond. Lou, welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback.
Brian, super pumped to be here, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be connecting finally for the first time. We connected via Zach because we're both ambassadors of Live a Great Story, and it's weird because in the online space it feels like it's so easy to call people that you speak to once, like to call them a friend. Whereas with you, it feels like you are a friend already, even though we've never really connected. So I'm excited to be speaking and connecting. Like as people are listening to this is the first time we've ever spoken. So yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on and to share a bit about what you're up to.
Hey, man, I think we are kindred spirits, and I really believe the world works like this, bringing people together. And I'm really happy that Zach connected us, and I love what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it might be because of the beards. They kind of attracted each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, Lou, you've got so much cool stuff going on that I'm excited to get into. But for people listening and don't know who you are and what you're all about, why don't you fill us in and tell us a bit about your quarter life story?
Yeah, my quarter life story it's pretty intense. I would say my whole life I was really trying to fit in, really just going with the crowd, thinking that I was doing all the right things, going to the right college, getting the right job. But along that time, I also got pretty heavily involved in fitting in, and in fitting in a way that involved alcohol, involved drugs, involved partying, really because I found that was giving me my purpose, that was giving me my excitement in my life for the longest time. As a kid, I remember having these like huge dreams of really like being whatever I wanted to be, like playing these imaginary games of baseball in my backyard, like imagining the best situation, World Series, and really believing that I was going to do something that mattered. And when I started through high school and through college and fitting in with the crowd and getting into the partying, I lost that, and I really just wanted to be like everyone else. So, I partied hard through college, and still was the high achiever. Still made sure I was getting good grades and doing good stuff. And then I moved out to San Diego after college, and around that time, I had started getting into the raving scene, and was getting into that party scene, which is a whole different partying scene from just the drinking, and started getting into different kind of drug use, like, the MDMA. And I really started, weekend after weekend, I was getting myself into these really these epic highs, but also with these highs, there would come these lows. And when you're like how I was, when you're doing this stuff every week, you really start, the highs just become a lot less high, and you just really, really feel the lows. So, I was working a job. I was doing good at work, but I was just living life for the weekends, like in the most atypical way. What are we doing on Friday night? How can we take this party up to the next level? And that's really what my purpose, and we might get into purpose as we go along this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I saw my purpose was what are we doing this weekend, and get my job done, do good in my job, but what are we doing this weekend? And it just started taking its toll on me. I was just continuing to get in these really depressing lows, and was questioning, like, what I was starting to question, really what I was doing, and like where this road was actually going. And after, just weekend after weekend of these lows, I finally had one weekend, one like early morning where I couldn't sleep the entire night. I just decided that I was going to make some kind of change in my life. And I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really know what was going to lead me there, but I made this decision, and I found myself meeting with a friend in LA about like a week afterwards, and he had mentioned this group of entrepreneurs he had gotten involved in around LA. And the way he was talking about it, he was just super passionate. It was like he had this new thing, and you could just tell that his energy was just, I wanted some of that. And I was asking, I was like, oh, what is this group? And he mentioned that this group, I was living in San Diego at the time. He mentioned this group started in San Diego, and I was like, oh man, can you like connect me? This sounds like something, it sounded like I needed to be there. So one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I end up in this meeting with a group of entrepreneurs. And I'll preface this by saying I didn't know what an entrepreneur was before I was in this meeting. Like that word to me was not in my life. That word to me was not around the people that I surrounded myself with. And I just wasn't aware that people in their 20s could start something of their own and create something and have their own business. So when I'm sitting in this meeting and everyone's talking about like the business they're running and what they're doing, you have a few coaches in there. This one guy was a millionaire, like real estate investor, just talked about his recent trip where he went to Necker Island to learn from Richard Branson. And I am just like sitting there like, where am I? Like, I don't deserve to be sitting in this meeting. I could barely even speak. And just, I don't know, this might, especially for you and the people listening, at this time in my life, they were talking about, going to unleash the power within. I don't know if you're familiar with like Tony Robbins.
Yeah, Tony Robbins, yeah.
Yeah, so they were talking about this, and they were talking about Tony Robbins, and at the time, I didn't even know who Tony Robbins was. I had to ask, and it was like it was like that awkward silence. I was like, yeah, who's Tony Robbins? Which is pretty, looking back now and where I'm at now and being in the personal development industry and really wanting to live my best life. It's just crazy. So, and it wasn't so long ago. It's like almost 3 years ago now. Man. But that's where I was. And this meeting, that was my paradigm shift, Brian. Like, it was that meeting that I saw all these people doing it, and I questioned. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Like, if these people are in their 20s and they're crushing it, like, why, like, how far away have you come? And it was that first meeting that I made the decision to change my life. And I didn't know what it looked like, but it was like, I got this new lease on life. And sure enough, every they allowed me somehow to come back to this meeting and continue to go every week. And it met on Fridays at 6 p.m. So it was a time where I used to be at the bar for happy hour after work. So it was a completely radical shift of my time use and going week after week. And I just saw so much growth and growth through that process, and got into personal development, started getting into the habits, started reading books. And when I started reading, I was like, oh my God, this is me. Like, I just feel so alive. And it was just this new lease on life that has led me to a lot of where I'm at today.
Yeah, there's so many directions I could go in there. And a couple of things I want to mention. It sounds like we've got so much in common. It's insane. Because like 3 years ago, I was still in my corporate job, and I'd come across Live Your Legend, which I know you're a chapter host now. But I'd come across that, and it's kind of like that meeting you were in, where it was people making an income, but also making a huge impact. And I was like, well, if these people can do this, like, why can't I? But something that I picked up, I know on your website, you talk about like how at different stages of your life, you've been, you know, a frat boy and a drunk and a womanizer. And I think you were like really high level golfer too, if I'm not
actually, yeah, I actually went to school for a PGA golf professional.
Yeah. So you mentioned like at different stages of your life, you were different things, like trying to fit in. And that's maybe why that dream, or those dreams when you were a kid, kind of faded away, and you had to think of, you know, what's realistic. But something that popped up for me while you were speaking is like, maybe this group of entrepreneurs was like a group of people you felt better about fitting in with than the sort of groups before, like the party scene or anything like that. Would you say that's maybe like
that's completely it? It's like I found like a new group. I mean, we will become the people that we surround ourselves with. So, you know, when you find that new group of like, all right, I need to level up to fit in with this group, and it was like I needed to start reading, so I had some contribution to give when I come to the meeting. It's completely like a new way to fit in. I think that's just how we're wired. Like, we're wired to want to be in a tribe, to feel connected.
Yeah.
So you hit it right there.
It's so funny because like often in the personal development space, people say like, don't compare yourself to others. But I think you can actually use comparison in a structure, like sort of a positive way, and like choose people that you aspire to emulate, and like compare yourself to them and be like, what do I need to do to sort of achieve what these people are achieving, if it's something that you want to achieve. So that's really cool. And I think for people listening, like if they are still in the sort of the living for the weekend stage, it may be overwhelming to think like, well, you know, Lou and Brian have quit their jobs and like doing really cool things. But that's so far from where I am now. But it doesn't take that long to make big changes. Like 3 years, it sounds like for you and I has been kind of the time frame. That's not a long time in the long run.
Dude, I quit my job after 7 months after that. It was a crazy transformation. Like, it does not take a long time. Like, if you start getting on the right path, if you start getting on the path that's really, really exciting you and lighting you up, and just starting to put yourself a little on the edge of your comfort zone each day, just your world just transforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why do you think it is that so many of us go through our 20s on autopilot, so to speak? Like, is it because we've numbed our self-awareness by, I don't know, like overindulging in social media or trying to fit in with like what looks cool? Why do you think that is?
I think fitting in is a big part of it, and I think it's just your surrounding growing up a lot, and then like if you have mentor figures when you're a child, like how your parents are, and just the group. I think it starts in high school, and just the kind of people, because you'll normally look for the same people from high school or college, or maybe you're just looking to find your place in college. And for me, I didn't even know this other world existed. So it's like you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think just trying to just just how we're brought up, and like we talked about before, like who we're around is such a big impact. So it's important for, I think, education. Like I don't think we're taught in school these things. We're not really taught mindset. We're not really taught finances. We're not really taught these things that are really important as we go on. And I think I think it's an old mindset right now of, get a corporate job and work your way up and retire and then go have fun. And it's just, it's, being so far out of that now, it's like, that's ridiculous. And the more people I surround myself with now, they all see that that's ridiculous. So it's just a shift in mindset. And I think we're starting to see it. And I think, that's why that's why I think we connected really strongly, because we're doing that work of like shifting people's mindset to understand that they really can be happy now, and they really can be excited about life and not have to endure weeks, not have to dread going to work on a Monday, because it's just not how I think life's too short.
Yeah. And I know you touched on the education system. We could go on that for a whole episode. But I actually saw a video of the school, I think it's in the States, of instead of sending kids to detention, they send them to go meditate.
Which
is super cool.
That's
cool. So,
go ahead.
So talk us through, I know there's a video on your website, on your About page, which I'll link to, speaking about like the cops coming to collect you or whatever, and like suicide claims. But talk us through your transition from, you met this group of entrepreneurs, you started reading, maybe spending more time with them and like starting to see what's possible. But talk us through that transition over those 7 months till you did quit. And yeah, especially like how you told friends and family.
Yeah, definitely. So I, through the 7 months, started getting into reading, started getting into just not drinking as much. Like I was partying less, even though I was stopped doing drugs. I was still drinking, but I was partying less, and understood when I even did go out, I was looking at my surroundings and seeing everyone really drunk and being like, well, did I have to used to get drunk to have fun? Like this just isn't as fun to me anymore. Like I started to place different values on my time. I started to get up early on a Saturday morning, go for a run, just start feeling great and start getting myself to really enjoy life in a way that I've never had before. And a huge one of my keystone habits that actually led to me quitting my job was when I found meditation. And I got into meditation for none other reason that all these successful people were doing it. It was a habit of successful people I was reading about. So I was such an open mind at the time. I was like, I'm going to try whatever I can. So I just tried meditation. It's not like I started meditating and it was instant and everything was great, and I was like meditating for hours, and it was like this love at first try, because meditation's hard. It's tough, and so many people are discouraged because they can't stop or they think that they have to stop their mind, when that's not the case. There's no right way to meditate. It's just putting the practice in. But even in the beginning, I wasn't really doing it every day. I was doing it once a week, maybe once every couple weeks. And for a couple months, I was kind of practicing it, but I ended up finding myself around New Year. So this was just before quitting my job. I went on a hike by myself in Joshua Tree in California, and I decided I had this view in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to go meditate on top of a mountain. Like, this is going to be great. Like, I'm going to have this epic picture in my head. So that's what I did. And it was through that meditation and through this experience on this hike, and I write a lot about this in my book. I had a really opening experience that I can only describe as a very intense spiritual experience, something that I was never ascribed to any really religion. I believed in a God, but I had never I wasn't that kind of person before this, but it was through meditation and through this hike that I was opened up to a completely new world. And I felt just like the deepest love that I've ever felt. And I found this intense connection to whatever you want to call a God or the universe or whatever, some sort of higher power. And I found this really deep connection, and I've started having the next few days through meditation. I kept having these really opening experiences, and life was just looking in a completely new and vibrant way. And I had this moment, I had this realization that what I was doing just wasn't like what I was doing at my job was not, I wasn't doing it enough good. It's like, what am I doing sitting in an office? I remember I actually went a few days after that experience, I went to the beach and I'm looking at the shore of in Encinitas, California, and I'm looking at the ocean, and I'm just understanding like my small place in this epic, vast world. And I realized, I'm like, what am I doing in a cubicle like all this time? Like, what am I doing with my life? There's so much to give. There's so much just love to share. I had this love inside me. I was like, there's so much to see. And that led me to like the thought of, should I quit my job? And once I started getting that thought in my head, it just started rolling really, really, really hard. And in the way that it's a crazy, crazy story. Like this whole story of how I actually quit my job, because there was no 2-week notice. I had no money saved. I had zero plans on what I was actually going to do, but there was something inside me. There's something way deeper that was calling me to some greater purpose. And I jumped. I jumped. I sent this email to my entire company announcing that I was just quitting, leaving immediately. And it took them as a surprise, because as I got into personal development, I started crushing it at work. Like I ended up getting a promotion to a totally different department. I won the best employee for like the year of that year, because I was just doing things that most people weren't doing, because I was reading about it, and I was just making an impact within my organization. So it took people as a complete shock. And I always say, like, I liked my job. I really actually liked the company. It was a really cool company to work for, but I felt this higher calling into something greater. And I had to jump right there to see what it had in store for me. And after I sent that email, they thought it was such an extreme thing for someone to do in a company on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. they sent. I put my phone on airplane mode because I was just like basking in this feeling. It was unbelievable. It was pure like real ecstasy of just feeling just so good about what I was going to do. And they thought my email was actually a suicide letter. So they sent the cops on that day, and it was like the weirdest two worlds, because I felt this deep love that I just wanted to contribute and share with the world. And they thought I wanted to kill myself. They thought that this email was threatening. And it was a whole crazy day after that. So, but it was through this jumping out into the complete unknown that I found how supported we are when we do that. And it was crazy, the things that have supported me because they're very scary, scary times. But there's also some highs, there's some lows, but it's what I understand. I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work of
Dude.
The hero.
I cannot believe you just said that, because I was just about to say it sounds a lot like the hero's journey.
That's it. That's it. That was and I believe we have a lot of. I told you we're connected, man. I think we go through a lot of heroes' journeys, the different ones during our life, but this was my and I'm still on it. Like this was the epic one of like really throwing myself in the unknown and letting, Joseph Campbell says like doors will open where there would not be. I'm like tearing up thinking about it right now, where there were no doors before and where like there would not be doors for anyone else, because like there's like this magic that happens when you step into the unknown.
I love it, dude. Yeah, it's like And I sometimes caution people against the whole like just quit your job, because I think that can get dangerous to just tell people that. But there is something beyond ourselves that's controlling it, where like if you put yourself out there and you're taking like you're doing the work and you're sort of making positive changes like you were, things happen. Like you can't actually plan. You can have a plan if you decide to quit, but at the same time you can't really plan it, because things like opportunities will pop up that you could never have thought about or imagined before. So yeah, that's really cool. And I want to go back to the meditation stuff real quick. I love that you mentioned, it's not about controlling your mind, because I always used to get really angry with myself, like, oh, my mind's wandering again. But then I read something where like the goal is not for your mind not to wander, it's to reduce the time it takes for you to realize that your mind is wandering, and like come back to that starting place. Be like, oh, my mind's wandering again, come back to the starting place. But for people listening, like they might be complete newbies to this and terms like spiritual connection and stuff. So like, first of all, what were the sort of practical or tangible benefits when you started meditating? And then how can people listening get started with like a basic practice?
So when I started, I could immediately just see myself at work when something that used to really get me anxious and feeling like we have a project that has to get done, and something went wrong, and all of a sudden the responsibility is on me. I would see that happen, and all of a sudden I would step away from it, and I would almost view myself in the situation of, the old Lou would want to really get upset and start yelling or just have this really affect him. And I was able to start stepping out of it and being like, take a breath. All right, it's just a thing and we can move on. And it was crazy, because that was almost immediate at work, of just being able to step back and breathe and view my situation. Because that's where meditation should be a practice for life, of we step back from our minds to view our thoughts. The same way we step back from situations happening around us and just view them that they're just situations. We don't have to get so emotionally drawn from a situation, because it just is. So that was an immediate benefit for me. And for anyone that wants to start a meditation practice, my biggest thing is to not put any pressure on yourself. Don't feel like you have to do it for every day. Don't feel like be great if you do it every day, but don't feel like you have to do it for an hour or a half hour. Like if you do it a minute on Monday, a minute and 30 seconds on the next day, just kind of starting to build up from there. And I highly recommend, for starting, is to find guided meditations. Mm-hmm. So you can find on YouTube. I have a few on my website. Insight Timer is a really good app that I publish a few meditations on there as well, that you can find. There's so many different kind of meditations. And just because when you have someone guiding you, your mind is listening to someone. And meditation, again, is not about not thinking. Like you could just be thinking about certain things and visualizing certain things. And I think that's what I still have in my meditation. Like there's part of a practice where I do visualization, and you get excited about how your day is going to look. You get excited about that high vision that I believe me and you are both kind of working towards, of where we see ourselves and the impact we want to make. So I hope that gives people a good place to start, and just have fun with it. Like it's supposed to be a fun practice, and just not get down on yourself when your body aches, and be comfortable. I forgot to say that. Get comfortable. Mm-hmm. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed. Sit in a chair. Make sure you're comfortable, because if your body's comfortable, then that's one less thing you have to worry about when you're closing your eyes and breathing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really wish people would drop the whole thing that meditation is like a woo-woo practice, because, I mean, if you, like you said, if you look at the top performers in the world in whatever industry, pretty much all of them are meditating. So it's not like some weird thing.
That's how I started. Yeah, it's like I didn't hear it from some spiritual guy, because I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have heard that. I was doing it because Tony Robbins. I was doing it because like these top entrepreneurs were doing it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this.
Cool. Something that I often think about is like in the personal development space, there's a lot of talk about like bettering yourself. But how do you see the distinction between bettering ourselves versus being enough already?
I think there's always room. I think it starts from that whole place. It's like, why are you wanting to better yourself? It's starting from a place that is not of lack. So and I think I do these affirmations of myself. It's like, I am already enough. Like I am worthy. And it's from that place of gratitude for what you have. And that's a huge practice of mine is practicing gratitude. And from that space, then you naturally become better. But there's a point though where it could drive you. Like I said, like when I got into this entrepreneur group, there's a point where you just know you're not, like, you have the work to do, but it's the process that you're happy about. It's not like you feel lack when you're going through the process. You should feel excited. Like if you're working on the right things and if you're pursuing the right goals and dreams, you should feel excited during that process, and you shouldn't feel like unworthy until you get something. Or you may need to do some introspection and ask, is this the right thing I'm working for? Like, do I need this in order to feel worthy? Like, I'm not excited doing this. Like, why am I doing this? And I think that's why so many people are what in their jobs. They're like, I need to make this amount of money to feel like I fit in with a certain group of people, so I can go out and buy this car, but I'm not excited to do that process. So it's really being intuitive to your feelings, and like ask yourself, is what you're doing making you excited?
Mm-hmm. I love that. All right, dude, we've kind of touched on it enough now. So you recently wrote a book called Find Your Truth. Tell us a bit about who the book's designed for and what you can expect to find in the book.
So the book is designed for who I was before I had my transformation. So I really want to impact a lot of my older friends. Like I want to impact those people that may be searching. They may be just like getting an inkling that there's something more. Maybe they're just getting the inkling that their job, they're seeing other people that are creating like a life that they are happy about, and they're not super happy about their job. So I think my book is different than I've read a lot of personal development books, and it's not your 10 steps to success. This book it's my story, and it's through my story and I've shared a little bit here, but it's through those the drinking times and the drug use and the party lifestyle. I share those darker stories and kind of reflect it back on the reader, and they might not have the same stories, but through different parts of their life. And then I kind of go through my journey of finding this group and what this group started to do for me. And that's like the second section is like, hey, I started getting into this. These were the books I was reading. And that's like the practical, I think it's all a lot of practical tips, but that's what I started doing to better my life. And I kind of continue to take the reader on this journey through my personal transformation. And it ends through me actually quitting my job. It ends through this whole spiritual awakening is what it was. This whole spiritual side that ends in me quitting my job. And I tell the whole story of the cops coming. And it's filling a void that's out there in the personal development space, because it's really a story, and I tell the stories that a lot of people aren't telling. They might brush over them, but I tell those stories, and it also gives a lot of value to the reader in doing that. So I've been so excited. It's been a 2-year project, and I'm just really excited that's finally out in this world.
Yeah, it's cool. It sounds like it's a sort of in the trenches with you kind of perspective, and not like some guru telling you what you should be doing. So that's really cool.
It's not too long ago.
So I want to find out from you, what is your take on people who say, follow your passion?
I think you have to, and I like to use the word truth, and that is the same as like passion, is to understand, to really get to know you. It's like follow you. So do the work where you, what is it? Socrates, one of those philosophers is like, know thyself. It's like, do that work and do the work of really understanding who you are. And I think your passion would come from that. I like to use, more than passion, like follow your excitement. I think your excitement is leading you to your highest thing. So if what your passion is your highest excitement, then I do believe to work on that. But you don't have to quit your job right away to do that. You can follow your excitement and see where it leads you.
Yeah, follow your bliss.
That's it. That's
JC. So Lou, for people listening, and I'm going to link up to the book in the show notes and encourage everyone to go check it out. But for people who are listening, how can we start finding our truth?
I'd say first is meditation. I really think getting a meditation practice and starting to close the outer world and diving into what thoughts are coming up, starting to notice the thoughts that come up, starting to get in tune with your feelings. So starting to, when you go to work, really, really feel what it's like when you're there. Like notice, just take a step back from your desk, look around, look at the people that you're surrounding yourself with, and what does it make you feel like? And that's what meditation helps you be able to understand your feelings and feel them at a little more of a heightened sense, because I think our feelings are leading us, and sometimes we're just so numb to feeling blah and feeling not excited. We're so numb to it that we don't even understand. So I really think it's tapping into that's where your truth is going to come from. It's going to come from in you. And I think meditation helps you to be more in tune with your intuitive nature and help you navigate your unique path, because we all have this beautiful, unique expression. I really do believe that we are here to express.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Lou, I do want to be mindful of the time. I feel like we could chat for hours, but we'll have to maybe do a follow-up episode sometime or just kick it on Skype between us. But I do have some final questions here. The first one is, what do you wish you'd been told early in your 20s?
I wish that I would have been told that you can create a life that you love. I wish I would have been told that there are people that are living a really happy life, and you can literally have like your dreams. Your dreams can come true. People stop telling you that.
Mm-hmm. What is the greatest opportunity for quarter lifers today?
The support, there's never been more people doing it. There's never been more resources available for you to learn and to ask people who have been there, and like you're doing it with this podcast. Like there's just so much out there, and that's a mindset shift. There's just there's so many people doing it, and it really is like, oh well, I can do this too. So I think the support is something that's a huge opportunity.
Got it. I do have one final question. Before I get to that, where can people go to find out more about you and find your truth and all the other work you got going on?
So you can go to check out my website at louredmond.com, LOUREDMOND. And my book will be out on Amazon. You can find the links to my book, and my website will have all of everything on there, or Instagram, and the socials at Lou Speaks Truth would be good.
Yeah, I dig it. And I'll link up to all of that in the show notes. Lou, before I get to the final question, I just want to take a second to acknowledge you here for really showing up. You like a lot of people were in that autopilot mode, like living for the weekend and just kind of pleasing your friends and numbing yourself with drugs and alcohol. But you've really turned things around and shown up in a big, big way. And now helping other people through your speaking and meditation and definitely your book coming up. So I just want to acknowledge you for that. It inspires me, and I'm keen to grow this relationship further as we go on. And the final question I have today is, what one thing can listeners do this week to start creating their own quarter life comeback?
Meditate. Start meditating. Start a meditation practice and see the benefits that it will have in every aspect of your life.
I love it. Lou Redmond, thank you so much for coming on the Quarter Life Comeback.
Brian, thank you for having me, man. It was fun.
So there you have it, guys and girls. That wraps up episode 51 of the Quarter Life Comeback podcast. And a huge, huge thank you to Lou Redmond for coming on and sharing a bit about his story with us today. If you like this one, please share it around on social media and shoot me a tweet at Brian Tier and Lou Speaks Truth and let us know your biggest takeaway. For me, it was the fact that a total life transformation does not have to take as long as we think. And in a space of just 3 years or even less, you can completely change things for yourself and create a totally new life. Now, if you like this one and you want to get more episodes like it, make sure you subscribe at quarterlifecomeback.com. And as always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at briantier.com/051. Thanks once again for spending time with me this week. And until next time, keep creating your quarter life comeback.
Thanks for listening to the Quarter Life Comeback. Get started today by visiting briantier.com.